Hey, listen, man.
Production
it's cool.
values. Production values is what it is.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So
hey,
for those of you that have just caught up to the Woodscast, we've been talking for about 10 minutes, and the recording was not going. So
just to be clear, we are recording now, right?
Oh fuck yeah, we're recording right now.
Okay. All right.
No, like when you hopped out of the thing, it stopped it, and I hit start and it didn't start. So hey, guess what? We're recording right now. So everybody, welcome to the Woodscast. We'll take a second take at this. It's not a big deal. It is Monday, December 10th. We didn't record last week, and we got some. Now I just feel like a dumbass because I got to say all this shit again.
Yep.
But oh well.
Yep.
But yeah. So we didn't record last week. We took a week off because my brother had to say goodbye to his good friend. But he's here with us. Shay, say hello to the nice people again.
Yellow.
Yeah, and with us
again.
Yeah, again. And also, to help us discuss all the news that we have missed in the last week and a half, we got my buddy John from the Bluegrass. What's going on, John Manny?
Hello.
And once again, I'd like to say hello to my buddy Adam Stratter, who's in the Mountain State.
What's going on, Chief?
I'm getting a handle on this slowly but surely.
You know, gotta say, I'm excited to find out what happened the past 2 weeks because I get my news exclusively from the Woodscast.
Well,
that is a mistake.
Yeah, that's got a lot.
You have chosen poorly.
Yeah, that's got a lot of problems. That's structurally a bad idea.
Yep.
But we'll try to.
When I miss all the podcasts that I like, I listen to this one because then Justin gives me a rundown of what has been said on all the other podcasts.
That's basically what we do here.
I mean, at least until halfway through when things get fuzzy.
Right, and so yeah, that's the problem for everybody. But basically, what we want to do today is, since we have a lot of news to go over, like I said before, I'm pretty sure that we can fix it tonight. So I got 4 liberal Democrats that were born and raised in West Virginia to just sort this shit out. Diversity is always the key there. You always want to really change it up.
Well, let me tell you, you're welcome for bringing the diversity to this podcast because I was actually born in Maryland.
No shit.
But...
Oh. You're gone. You're out. Bye. All right. So let's just do a quick rundown of the numbers of today. So it's Monday. It's December 10th. We are in the 690th day of the Trump administration. We are in the 182nd day of peace in our time with North Korea. There are no nukes in North Korea, last I heard, right? And we are 35 days out from the motherfucking midterm, and we were just talking about this, but I don't want to go over it again. We still have a seat in North Carolina that's open. There's some voter fraud. I think we should come back to this after we get a little bit more information. So for those of you who listen to this, we talked about this for a couple minutes before we started recording, but it's actually there's some honest to God voter fraud. It looks like it was a guy that worked for the Republican candidate. And it's funnier than shit because, of course, the Republican Party has been the party of voter ID for the last several years. Well, just as long as there was a black guy that was president, pretty much is what they really cared about it. But yeah, that'll shake out, and it's gonna get people are gonna go to jail. But we'll revisit that in like a week or so when we get a little bit more information because I want to know who knew what and what, when, and where, and it'll be fun. So let's just skip right the fuck over that. I have some corrections I do want to make. The first correction was pointed out to me by Mr. John Maddie here. When I was talking about how racist Cindy Hyde-Smith was when she won her Senate seat, I said it was in Missouri, but it was actually in Mississippi, so that was my mistake. Although it's not like I mixed up Alaska and Florida, so everybody can calm the fuck down.
Watch out, you'll offend.
That was actually somebody else
in Mississippi.
Yeah, what's that?
I said that actually was somebody else that pointed that out, and I gave you that one.
Oh, okay. The other thing I messed up on the last podcast was I confused Steven Crowder with Trey Crowder. Steven Crowder is the a-hole that runs Louder with Crowder, and Trey Crowder is the liberal redneck comedian that you'll see on Facebook. Good guy, love his stuff. Really sorry to confuse those two people together. Now, let's knock out this fun stuff and get back into the swing of things. We were just talking about the Avengers trailer. everybody saw it. Apparently, it set some record, like 289 million people watched it in a 24-hour period, which is all fine and fucking good. But I was just really tired of the hemming and hawing of, will it be released today? Will it be released tomorrow? Will it be pushed back because, Bush 41 passed away? Will I get to see it back to back? Who will introduce it? Who gives a shit? Like, just as long as you tell me when the movie's coming out, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, I'm so over it.
I mean, here's the thing, and I know you agree with me on this. I fucking love Marvel movies. I get super pumped when the new ones come out. I have no problem, and I'm the kind of guy. If they just keep cranking them out and keeping them at this quality, I'll just keep going. And even if they start to suck, I'll probably still keep seeing them.
That's what Booze is for.
But at this point, I don't really give a shit about trailers or release news because they've gotten such a formula to it that I know what it's going to look like. I know what it's going to sound like. I know who's going to be in it. There'll probably be a pretty cool plot twist or something. I mean, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Ant-Man, the second one, they apparently he gets free of the subatomic realm because he's in this trailer. So I thought that was a weird choice because at the end of Ant-Man, the after credit scene, he was stuck in the subatomic realm. Spoiler alert after the fact. Hey, there you go. I mean, if Marvel can do it, I can do it. So you're right. It's kind of stupid how much people are hemming and hawing about that shit. At this point, you know exactly what you're in for because it literally is like the same month every year.
Well, and also I think it's funny that people it's almost like seeing the movie isn't the point anymore. Like for the next almost April of next year is when it comes out. Like from here now until then, they're just gonna watch that trailer over and over and try to like decode it. It's like, or you could just fucking read a book and then watch the movie in April. Like, fucking unclench. But whatever. Did you guys catch this trailer, or is it just Shay and I?
Yeah, I actually watched all the other trailers you sent me, but I haven't watched Avengers.
Well, that's good.
I mean, you have seen this Avengers trailer. Like, if you go back and watch the teaser for Infinity War, it's the exact same kind of shit. Like, you've seen it before. It's nothing new, but the movie's probably going to be great. So, fuck yeah, I can't wait. But I'm not going to watch a 10-minute video on YouTube about a 3-minute trailer.
Oh yeah.
Not even that. Like 2 minutes 30 seconds or some shit.
I think a good thing, a good allegory there is like I saw, I think it was on Twitter somewhere. It's like my 2-year-old can take 47 minutes to explain to me a 27-minute episode of Paw Patrol. And I was like, yeah, I've been there. Like, we've all been there.
Yep.
I've surprisingly caught myself watching some YouTube videos that I'm like, why am I watching this? So I couldn't rule anything out.
Yeah.
At risk of being deported from this podcast, I'm actually kind of exhausted with Marvel movies.
You shut your whore mouth.
There's just so many of them, and there's so many characters.
Just nod your head and move along.
I can't get invested in any specific character, so therefore I don't care about any of them. Kind of.
No, there is a point to that. There is a valid point there in that if you're gonna crank these things out six a year, like. There was a very good argument that was made about like the character of the Joker, like when what's his face did it for Suicide Squad. I don't know that guy. Jared Leto. And
it was not good.
Well, no. Okay, yeah. A lot of people thought it was not good. A lot of people thought it was like an interesting take on the character. A lot of people thought
people are wrong.
Well, okay. A lot of people thought he should have been murdered in the street. Like, I get that, but like. You can't have, and then now they're making a Joker movie with, was it Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
You can't have this character. Either you're going to churn out 8 movies a year based on this character, and it's just a thing, and we have 1,000 different takes on it, and everybody just deals with it. Or if you really want to hold it as like fucking precious as you sound like it, then you don't churn one out every fucking 2 months, and you do it that way. Like, yeah, it's there's 6 and one, half dozen the other, but like no matter what you do, somebody's gonna bitch.
Let me put it this way. I think that ever since Disney acquired both franchises, I think that the Marvel movies have had objectively better quality than the Star Wars movies, but. I have seen every Star Wars movie in theaters. I enjoy them immensely more on a subjective basis because I know what's going on because they only come out one a year and I can focus on them individually.
That's a good point. Like I did the math today. Like Avengers Infinity War made like $1.4 billion. So that's about 140 million people going and seeing it for $10 a pop, basically, rough numbers. If all of those people actually bought a comic based on any of the characters in that movie, the comic book industry would be so just face fucked with money that all the comics I buy would drop back down to like the $1.95 price range I had back in the 90s, and it'd be awesome. But no, that's not how it works. They just go see the movie and go, "Oh, I'm a nerd. I'm into comics." I'm like, no, I'm a nerd because I know how many people have taken the moniker of Ronin that you all are shitting your pants about since Hawkeye. Never mind. I have touched a boob, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. I've touched boobs.
Listen. So, listen. You listen.
Well, I'm listening.
So, those trailers are great.
How high are you right
now? But I unbelievably stoned. That's not the point. So, here's the thing, man. That trailer's great. But
it was frozen again.
But in the last 30 days, I've lost my job. I have had to put my dog down.
Oh.
And that still cannot dampen my enthusiasm for Godzilla King of Monsters.
No, yeah.
That shit is so good.
Yeah.
My desk rose 6 inches. Like, I swear to God, it was fantastic. That's why I don't give a shit about that Avengers trailer. And I need to throw that out there. Like, this is something that I've been waiting for since I was like fucking 10 years old.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
yes.
So in Shay's bong-addled mind there, he's come up with the perfect segue to the next one, which is the Godzilla 2 King of Monsters trailer just dropped, which is the second one, and it's got a great moment for each monster. So far we've seen Shay's going to correct me if Shay, what are the monsters? You're going to say them correctly. I'm going to fuck up all their names. So Godzilla.
OG. Everybody knows what he looks like.
Yeah. Mothra.
Rodan, and Rodan's like the big pterodactyl guy.
Right.
And then King Ghidorah, which is the big gold 3-headed dragon, which is kind of like the Vader to the Skywalker of the Godzilla universe. It's the monster that over like the 30 some odd films they've had, he's consistently been like the villain that shows up and everyone goes, "Oh shit, it's him."
Yeah. I was just really impressed with how well it's done, how the scale looks awesome, like the settings look awesome. It's nothing but monster on monster, ruin porn, but it's just so fun. It's gonna be so fun.
Which is look, Godzilla movies as far as quality, and I don't even need to see the trailer, which I did watch the trailer, but I don't even need to see the trailer to tell you how this is gonna go. Godzilla movies are the Trump's approval rating of movies.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
They've got a low ceiling and a high floor. We all know what we're getting.
Yeah.
And if you liked it coming into to the theater, you're gonna like it coming out. If you didn't like it going into the theater, you're not gonna like it coming out. You know what you're getting.
Right.
It's interesting.
What's that?
I was gonna say, coming at it from somebody who's watched I'm looking here at this toy I bought when I was like 17 or some shit that was an unreleased Godzilla toy. So I got a lot of dumb shit I've seen. Oh yeah, Robotech. I have seen I think all the Japanese movies, and like this one is very clearly made by people with that attitude. Like there are shots in the trailer alone that are almost frame recreations of shots from movies that were filmed in the 80s and the 90s in Japan. So it's really clear that's the problem I had with the first one, is it had this real hoity-toity pretense of fucking mystery. And, like I really care what the human characters are going to get into, especially once Bryan Cranston died. Everybody else is the worst.
Yeah.
So
the rest of them are just fucking monster jam for all I care. Just squash them all.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck. Yeah. Those are, man, that shit looks great.
The other trailer I sent you guys, and not like you had homework or anything, I just was watching them and they seem pretty good, is apparently James Gunn is fresh off his ban of Disney, and he's made a new movie. It's called Brightburn, and it's basically a Superman origin story where Superman is, what did you say, like 12-ish maybe?
Something like that, but let's be clear, it's not Superman. It's that same story, but it's not anything related.
There's no Superman. There's no S on his chest or anything, but it's the same fucking story. Farming. A husband and wife. They farm out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Spaceship crashes. They pull a little baby out of the pod, and he grows up and he has extra superpowers. Except maybe, and here's the catch: maybe Superman wasn't too well adjusted.
Yeah. He's basically evil. I mean, that looks like it's like part of his nature, and based on the trailer.
Yeah,
I don't know. I really hope they don't cop out. I really hope it doesn't end up being this thing where like they find something in the ship, like they flip like he's being mind controlled or altered. He's really a good kid. Like I don't want that to be the ending. Like I want the ending to be a flash forward 30 years, and I see this like ruined hellscape that this kid has caused.
Right.
But we'll see. It's like I told you, it looks like irredeemable.
I'm thinking the waitress in the refrigerator or whatever. She's just a bitch, and she
totally deserved it. Like, turns out it's propaganda. Like, she's super racist.
Yeah, like remember all the the angst and just fucking misdirected anger you had when you were like 10 or 12. And then imagine you could bench press a car, and how that would change your outlook on whether or not I'm gonna fuck with this guy or not. Yeah, it's pretty neat. And Shay and I have discussed this offline, and we hadn't talked to you or Adam about it, John. But one of the things that we were talking about is we just need a irredeemable movie, which was a comic from Boom Studios back in the 90s. Shay, am I making this up?
I can find out for you.
90s, 2000s.
It is Boom Comics.
Yeah, I know it's Boom Comics. But basically, the whole premise of the comic is
2009 to 2012.
Oh, okay, cool. A lot later than I thought it was. But basically, the whole premise of the comic was, what if Superman... what if Superman...
Doing some Foley work there.
Yeah, what if Superman just didn't give a shit, and like Lois dumps him, and he just kills Washington, D.C., like everybody in Washington, D.C. And it explores the fact that the actual Superman mythos is pretty much bullshit, but it's a fun comic. But it's what do you do when the one guy who's supposed to protect the entire planet decides to just murder everybody in every major city who looks at him cross-eyed and can't fucking do a thing to stop him? So,
well, if that's not
could you blame him? Could you blame him?
Yeah.
If that's not a metaphor for the current state of the American presidency,
right? Yeah. Like, it's a great comic. It's fun. And Shay and I were bouncing back and forth, and it's apparently in development by 20th Century Fox. It's been there for like over a year or so. They've been word crafting that script or anything. But so also I don't really want to get into this because I might cry. But Watership Down, Netflix is making a Watership Down show, which is absolutely horrible. For those of you not aware of this, Watership Down is a book about a warren of rabbits who get displaced from their little rabbit holes, and they go on a journey and they murder a lot of fucking other rabbits. It's fucking harrowing. Like, I'm reading this book and I'm like 10. I'm like, oh, cool, rabbits. And then like the next page, like one rabbit disembowels another rabbit, and he's like, see what I did to that rabbit, fuckers? I'm like, wow, okay. That took a turn, but apparently they're going to make it on Netflix series, and I don't know if I have enough liquor in the house to watch that. But
so this is a series, not a movie.
Yeah, it's a Netflix series based on a book. It's all CGI. They're all fluffy rabbits until they chew somebody's head off, and it's going to happen. It's fucking horrible.
I've read that the author has said that it's just a book about rabbits, and there's no other type of.
He is a liar.
Like, because I've actually done some. I actually didn't know anything about the series till like he sent me the link to the trailer, and I kind of Googled it and saw that there's an original film.
Oh yeah, and that one's even more fucked up.
It's perfect nightmares.
Yeah, it's an animated movie about rabbits like fucking murdering each other. It's fucking insane.
It actually looks worse than the one that Yeah.
All right. Well, the other thing is Daredevil got canceled, and nobody can seem to figure out why. But I guess that nobody's gonna fix that. But
I have a theory on that. I think you're seeing all these shows get canceled because Disney's starting their own streaming service, and they own all those properties now, and they're not going to produce something that's that violent because they've even said I think their streaming service is going to top out at like PG or some shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I haven't even watched the third. I've got depressed when I heard that. I haven't watched the third season of Daredevil. I was all pumped to watch it, then I found I got canceled. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, on Adam's point though of overwhelming amount of Marvel movies, I kind of think the TV shows were out of control. The quality had already started to dip. Iron Fist was fucking shit. Defenders wasn't bad, but it was okay. Luke Cage was good. Daredevil was, it was too. When you've got a few movies a year to see, that's fine. But when you've got a few TV series to watch, and each one of them is like 45-minute to an hour episodes, and there's 10 to 20 episodes each, that's too much Marvel. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I stopped giving a shit about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daredevil, Luke Cage, all of it. I had never bothered with Jessica Jones, even though I hear it's really good. But I just stopped giving a shit. So when I found out they canceled Daredevil, I was like, I mean, that's a bummer because it was literally the best one of all of them. But yeah, that's just too much. So I don't think I'm going to miss it.
I'll honestly probably start watching it now because for me the worst thing about Netflix series is when I have to, after I watch the entire show in 3 days, wait another year for another season to come. So
Great.
I can see that, and actually, like the Daredevil one, like I said, like Shay said, it was the best one. It had some of the best fight scenes. I'll never forget like that first. It's like the second or third episode of the first season of Daredevil. Like he's fighting in a hallway, and it's just like wave after wave after wave of dudes, and he's just whipping their asses. But after a while, he's so exhausted that he's literally just leaning against a wall until he has to move. Like the last instant, he has to move. Like some guy, like there's like 2 or 3 guys walking up the hallway looking at him like, is this dude okay? Like, did they kick his ass? Why is he just standing there? And they walk up and take a swing, and this just like the second before that punch is going to connect, he moves and then beats that guy's ass and moves down the line of asses to beat. And then like once he's done with those 4 guys, he just leans back against the wall. It's like, oh shit, I'm spent. It's really good. Vincent D'Onofrio with the Kingpin. You got a lot of great characters. So I don't know.
So good.
We'll have to move that on. The other thing that we kind of missed not recording a podcast last week, and I don't really want to harp on this because the media has covered it pretty well. But anybody have any like lasting impressions of the passing of George Herbert Walker Bush, Bush 41? So I mean, 41st president, excuse me. A lot of his resume was impressive as shit, but I didn't remember it because you always just remember him as the president. You forget he was a congressman. You forget he was a governor, if I'm not mistaken. You forget that he was the CIA director. You forget,
Oh yeah.
I mean, his resume was super impressive, and I guess the one thing I would say is that it's always a shame to lose a past president, Democrat, Republican, doesn't really fucking matter. And the media, I thought the media did a good job of like doing the gambit of like lionizing him as basically a saint, talking about how he did good things and bad things. I mean, there was the whole pardons for the Iran Contra stuff. There was a lot of race baiting ads when he was running for president. And, there's he had some fuck ups as president, but there's the articles that were like weighing both sides, and then of course the articles that said that he should have just been murdered in the street. There's cross board.
You are mistaken in that he was not a governor.
Was he not a governor? Okay.
He was not a governor. However, he was also the U.S. UN ambassador, which takes me to not to go on too much of a tangent from the current conversation, but I think that is a real reminder of the downward step that office has taken recently.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you want to
get no shit.
And maybe you want to get into that later instead of right now.
Yeah, that's like we have it's basically an avalanche of shit that's happened in the last week, and one of those things is that Heather Nauert, am I saying that right?
I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Heather Nauert is now is going to be named to our UN ambassador. She was a Fox News anchor, then she became the UN spokesperson, and now she's the goddamn ambassador.
Only the best.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah. The thing that it's funny because like I barely remember Bush, as a like a daily public figure. I mainly remember the SNL skits where it was a Dana Carvey played Bush.
Dana Carvey.
Those were awesome.
Wouldn't be pretty.
Yep. But the thing that cracks me up about it is I think because he represents a type of Republican that, I mean, for all we know, let's hope Trump's an aberration and the next person that runs as a Republican and wins is a more traditional, conservative, normal, not crazy, basically Mr. Burns. But that maybe it's a fluke, but maybe it's not, and maybe that people are kind of lamenting. You're not just hearing people. A lot of the thread I heard wasn't people just lamenting Bush himself, but what he represented in terms of like civility. Like the guy was always nice. Like that was something you heard over and over again. Was like he was a super nice guy. Like I never agreed with him, but damn it, I liked the guy because he was a nice guy. Yeah, he did some fucked up shit, but it's it's more of a good man who made some bad decisions and did some bad things more than he's like a supervillain. So I'm curious, and this is what I kept thinking about. When Donald Trump dies, am I going to hear people talk about what a great dude he is? Or is it going to be a lot different? See, that's the thing. Like, I want it. It's going to be so funny to see the difference the way, like, because I mean, the guy is almost 80, right? He's in his 70s.
Who?
Donald
Trump? He's 72.
Yeah, 72. So he's not almost 80, but yeah, I mean, he's not in the way just look at the motherfucker. He's not going to be around that long. He may finish his term.
He does eat too much McDonald's.
I mean, I'm not going to hate on the man for that. I fucking love Big Macs. Let's not, I do have some things in common with him. But I still don't look like he does. And, it'll just be interesting to see the difference on how, like, cause Jimmy Carter's going to pass. He's 90 in his mid 90s.
He's 94, I believe.
94. Yeah. So, Bill Clinton. So this is going to continue to be a thing. It's going to be real interesting over the next few years to see, like, oh man, Jimmy Carter, he made these mistakes, but he was a great guy. Oh, Bill Clinton made these mistakes, but he was a great guy. Oh, Donald Trump. Man, how about them Broncos? Like, yeah, like no one's. It's going to be so interesting to see how that plays out.
I think what that's going to come down to, and not entirely, but what I think is flavoring our analysis lately is what I would call an overreaction to hagiography, because there's a legitimate critique that in the past and throughout our history, America has been overly prone to put our national leaders up on a pedestal and just not talk about their shortcomings and talk about every leader that we have ever had as a great man. And lately we've had a bit of a reckoning on that, but I think there has been an overcorrection. And you saw it with John McCain, you see it now with George H.W. Bush. After they pass, everybody is kind of trying to preempt the hagiography and is immediately, breaking out the torches and pitchforks about every bad thing they ever did in their life and won't admit to the fact that this was, at least on a personal level, a profoundly decent human being.
Yeah.
Everyone who knew him personally liked him. He had a civility to him. He had a sense of duty to him, but also he did these things that were either mistakes or they were, flaws in character. Because everybody that has ever been president has been a human being, and everybody who will ever be president in the future will be a human being.
Hold on. Eventually, we're going to get to that whole head in a jar thing, but that's neither here nor there.
But
I think one way I would describe him would be competent, and that's kind of a contrast from what we have now. But when you look at, say, McCain. Executive, but somebody that's
you're breaking
actually
up real
very
bad.
competent and knew so much about what government does, and like it's already been said, we might not agree with what he did. He was qualified to be the commander in chief. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. He was George H.W. Bush was hugely qualified to be the president, and like you guys both said, like we put these people up on a pedestal. I mean, Gary Hart was the turning point, right? Like before Gary Hart, you didn't go after somebody's like sex life. If they were having affairs on the side, you just let it go. Nobody talked about it. And Gary Hart was the turning point, and like Bill Clinton somehow like slipped between the cracks of that turning point, and then we are where we are now. Like right now, we have a sitting president who apparently, and we'll get to this, apparently colluded with his lawyer to pay off 2 women that he quote unquote never had sex with, but he paid him over $240,000 to shut the fuck up about it. Right before a campaign.
I refuse to believe there is anyone anywhere that is honestly surprised Donald Trump did that.
It was like a private transaction.
All the shit that I've like of all the shit that I've seen the accused of, like this is one of those things like, well, I just don't think it's a really. There are interviews with Trump where he goes on Conan O'Brien and like pulls out condoms and like plays with him while he's interviewing him, and like they make jokes about him banging prostitutes, and you're actually surprised that he, a guy who's a billionaire, had sex with a porn star and then was like, here's 30 grand, don't talk about it.
I'm not casting doubt on this.
No, I'm not saying you guys are.
Wait.
But there's a lot of people out there who are skeptical that's real, and I'm like, seriously?
I'm not casting.
Before we move on, hold on. Before we move on, I want to say one more thing about George Herbert Walker Bush. I'm sorry. One of the funniest things about his passing was not how America was going to deal with the passing of a president, but it was how everybody was surprised that Donald Trump was able to muster the bare minimum of decency, like for like fucking 4 hours. You know,
I read people on Facebook were like, we really should give him credit for handling this so well. I'm like, so he didn't make an ass of himself, and he should like suck his cock.
No, not making a scene at a funeral is what you take a 4-year-old to Dairy Queen for.
Right.
It's not something that you praise a 72-year-old man for.
He would probably enjoy Dairy Queen.
Yeah. Oh no, he totally would. Yeah, like I was listening to some radio hosts, Mike Gallagher, who is the physical manifestation of everybody's crazy conservative uncle in radio, like from like I want to say 11 to 1 or something here in Central Time. All of those crazy uncles will concentrate very hard on a radio studio in New York, and this man manifests into just pure stupid conservative light. And he was almost crying because the media wasn't giving Donald Trump credit for being decent at a funeral. It was hilarious. But yeah, so that's a thing. All right, so why don't we take the next thing we want to talk about is this avalanche of shit that has come down on the Trump administration. I will do a rundown of what I think were the highlights of it. I want you guys to stop me and or interject things that I have missed. And it starts with the Manafort plea deal being blown up because he lied, and it will end with, as of today, Maria Butina is apparently ready to plead guilty and play along with authorities based on her being a Russian secret agent cozying up to the NRA. So let's take a 5-minute break and come back and knock that out so that everybody in the Eastern time zone can go to bed at a reasonable hour. How's that sound?
Can do.
Let's put a pin in that waking up in a bush and no pants conversation.
Okay.
We'll get back to what the hell's going on in DC now. So let me just let's run down this, and guys, stop me, pause me, and I'm just going to run through this and then we can discuss it. So in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, there has been an avalanche of just woo fuckery that has descended on the White House. And if I'm not mistaken, it started with the entire Manafort plea deal being blown up because he was lying to the federal the Mueller investigation, so that went out the window. You've got Jerome Corsi, Dr. QAnon, and one of Alex Jones's lackeys. He said he was going to enter a plea deal. He was going to sign a plea deal and plead guilty for perjury. But then he decided he was not going to do that. He was not going to sign it because he had not lied and he was totally not crazy. And that went out the window. And as of, I think today or yesterday, Jerome Corsi is now suing Robert Mueller, the FBI, the CIA, the UPS, USPS, United Post, everybody he can think of for $350 million for making him, for blackmailing him into lying about Trump. So whatever the hell that means. So we had the Flynn sentencing memo, which the news media was really hoping was going to have more answers, but basically just said that he cooperated very fully, with the Mueller investigation, and they recommended no prison time for him. I think the big takeaway from that memo was that they said he had cooperated very fully with an investigation that was entirely redacted, so nobody knows what the hell that was about. So it's another rabbit that's in a hat somewhere. The Cohen sentencing memo came out. It recommended about 4 years, and basically said that he implicated Trump in coordinating 2 felonies on Trump's behalf in electoral fraud, which we kind of knew was a thing, but we now know that every time you've seen individual one, they were referring to the sitting president of the United States. What's that?
Don't believe it.
Yeah. This is a little bit more complicated and problematic because it actually involves the Trump kids as well, because that payment was routed through the Trump organization and their lawyers. So that could be a big sticking point for at least Don Jr. and I don't know. I don't know if Eric's smart enough to get in any trouble yet, but we'll see.
Man, I'd love to see Don Jr. get nailed for fucking anything.
So the stock market took a hit right in the taint, and kind of rebounded a little bit. Trump announced that Kelly would resign as his chief of staff just the other day, and he would be out by the end of the year. He originally was going to take Mike Pence's chief of staff, a guy named Nick Ayers. I don't know if there's any relation to Bill Ayers, but that guy said, "Fuck no, I don't want to do it," because apparently he was going to have to agree to be the president's chief of staff for 2 solid years, so he wouldn't do that. And now Trump can't find anybody. Reports are
John Voight, right?
Yeah, John Voight threw his hat in the ring, but right now Trump can't find anybody that wants to take that job. Nobody fucking wants that job. As Adam was saying earlier, Trump has apparently picked Heather Nauert. I said it earlier. Now I can't do it. Nauert to be the UN ambassador. She, like we said before, she was a Fox News anchor. Then she became the UN spokesperson, and now she's the UN ambassador. And she has 0 experience in that job whatsoever. And as of this afternoon, Maria Butina, who was the Russian agent who had cozied up to the NRA to peddle her influence there between the NRA and the Kremlin, and see whatever she could, and try to get her ass placed in some higher up places in the White House and some kind of connected positions. She's apparently going to plead guilty and cooperate with the federal authorities. I miss anything? That's been since like last Wednesday.
I don't know, man. Like, that's so much has happened in the last few days. There was there was one other thing that was just a blip on the radar that was really crazy, and I can't remember who it is, but there's some guy who was running. He had an island called Orgy Island that he was a convicted pedophile, and he got off with a slap on the wrist. And a bunch of people were super pissed about that. And I think the relevance was it has something to do with it's someone involved as a Trump appointee or some shit.
The relevance is that the current Trump administration Secretary of Labor, Alex Azar, was the U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District of Florida at the time, who cut that plea deal.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And I mean, and we're talking about so
you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
He cut this plea deal. Yeah, and that's it. And for anyone that's not familiar with it, basically this guy had a private island that he had nicknamed Orgy Island, and they had a lot of underage women working there performing sex acts, and my understanding is some of them were as young as 14. And this is all on the record and good, but
I need to correct my accidental fake news. That was Alex Acosta, the Labor Secretary, not Alex Azar, the DHHR Secretary.
Yeah. Okay. Labor Secretary.
As far as we know, he hasn't done anything shady today.
No, not today. But I mean, And it's I mean it's just ridiculous because again it's so frustrating for me because of the hypocrisy of it. You've got all these QAnon loons wanting to take down this international pedophile ring run by Obama, but when the labor secretary, if they find out that he gave this guy 13 months slap on the wrist, and by the way he was allowed to spend up to 12 hours a day 6 days a week in his private office instead of a jail cell, so he barely spent any time in jail, he still continued to work and do all that shit, he basically got away with it. No one has a problem with it. So that was that was a weird one. That one just shot right by, but it got caught in all the other hubbub. And if it were any other time, that would have been the story of the week. But there's just so much other bullshit going on right by.
I mean, if you could just pick one piece of commentary for the Trump administration, it would be this thing would be a huge deal if it were not drowned out by the cacophony of other huge deals going on simultaneously.
I mean, it's a really kind of weird, stupid genius because they've made it normal and everyone, like, people don't pay as much of attention anymore because there's always a bunch of shit going on, which is like incredibly frustrating. I mean, I can't even at this point remember whether it was a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago that it turned out that the entire Trump fortune was built on several $1 million worth of federal tax fraud, and like everyone just let that go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was an entire separate company that was created. Oh, it was like something county. Oh, Shay and I talked about it. It's like something county properties or whatever. And basically, they would buy a boiler for $50,000, and then turn around and sell it to the Trump organization for $100,000, and then they would just pocket that extra $50,000 and just divide it up between all the Trump children and grandchildren and everything. That's what Fred Trump would do. He would just take these you just inflate costs and then divide them around amongst his many progeny until they I mean these are people that were born on third base and not only thought that they hit a triple but invented the game of baseball. Like, that's how fucking stupid these people are. Like, Eric Trump, to what Shay was saying, Eric Trump and Don Trump are walking around acting like they're captains of industry, and if they could format an Excel spreadsheet, I'd blow the both of them.
Well, let's remember the Trump organization is really just the Trump family, and then like actually fairly small businesses. Like, they aren't a conglomerate that owns like tons and tons of things as much as they're saying. Well, they actually have some businesses, but it's actually they have very few employees compared to what they make out.
Well, what the Trump administration's, or Trump, not the Trump administration, what the Trump,
it's the same fucking thing.
It really is the same thing.
What the Trump organization, the business conglomerate is at this point, is not a real estate development empire. It's a branding empire.
Right.
And it's based off of, at this point, the persona that Donald Trump generated by being, and I'll give him due credit on this, a very good branding and marketing person. I mean, he's very good at that. He's not a good real estate developer, but he's a very good marketer.
Oh, he's marketed a person that doesn't exist, and that's the deal maker.
He has managed to cultivate himself an image as a master businessman, and then he licenses his name to other real estate developers and any other product that somebody will pay him to put his name on, and that's how he makes his money.
And that shift was during the 2000s where the late 90s, early 2000s where he was on my radar just because he was in the news for always being in bankruptcy, and that's how he got over that hump, was to just switch from this buying and selling property to this, I'm just going to make a deal where you slap my name on it and I parade around in front of this building, or in front of these stakes, or in front of this shitty water, or whatever it was. That's how he did it.
And like I said, I'll give him that credit. He's made a lot of money doing that. It was a smart business decision, but trying to cast him as being this hugely successful real estate tycoon is not accurate.
Well, we were talking about people we wanted to see nailed to the fucking wall a minute ago. I'm with Shay. The Don Jr. and Eric just oh my God, hit them with, just beat them to death with badminton rackets for all I care.
I'm not sure if Eric actually speak.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure about him. He may be challenged. I don't know. But definitely Don Jr. He's pretty much set himself up to just get creamed.
If you've missed the news this week, Don Jr. is hiding out in Canada.
Yes.
And on a and I know nobody listening can see my scare quotes, but hunting trip.
Yeah.
Though it speaks to Don Jr.'s genius that he did not go to hide out from a potential Mueller indictment in a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty. But
yeah, we'll pluck his ass right from Canada.
Don't fault a guy from like Brooklyn like for being very outdoorsy. Okay?
Yeah. Well, one of my new favorite podcasts, one of the things we do here on the Woodscast is recommend better podcasts, and Chapo's Trap House is probably one of the best ones I've been listening to lately. And they have they've actually sat down and watched hours of this new Fox Nation, the online streaming site that Fox News has put out, and they have almost an entire episode on just making fun of Eric Trump for like he was the initial rollout of like the Trump family. They're like, if you're gonna do a 45-minute just bio on somebody, you want the top brass. You want to get your best people out there. And so they apparently threw Eric out there, and they were like, this guy's mouth is so pink and so wet. It's like he sleeps with a ring pop in his mouth. And like I was about to pee myself because it's just all so true.
Well, it depends on what you mean by best, because if our measure is least likely to go to jail, probably Eric.
Right.
Oh, definitely Eric. Now and that's why I think that I would love to see Jared Kushner, aka the Kush, just get nailed to the wall. Because when we're talking about real estate developers, like I was always very it was a hot button issue for me, like you just said, Adam, and John said it too. Like Donald Trump's not a real estate developer, and I knew that. Donald Trump says that he builds the best buildings, and I say bullshit because he's not a architect. He's not a draftsman. All he knows how to do is to buy a square of property in New York, and maybe he's good at buying it low and selling it high or whatever. But the building that's built on there has absolutely fucking nothing to do with Donald Trump, except when he comes in to pick the tile. That's it. Like, he's not sitting at a draftsman table just drawing lines and kind of trying to come up with the contours of the exterior of the building. No. He pays people to do that. So, like, when I pay somebody to change my oil, I don't say I changed my oil. Like, I had it done. Like, so that was always my hot button issue. He was like, I build the best buildings. No, bullshit. Like, design one building, I'll let you say that, but that's not what you do. And Jared Kushner's in the same fucking boat. Like, Jared Kushner apparently owns, and I'm not joking here. Jared Kushner owns a building at 666. I think it's Park Avenue in New York, but. And he owes something like $500 billion on it or something insane. Like, I guess it'd be $500 million. Like, he's got a $500 million balloon payment coming up at the end of this year. And that's why he's, like, going all over the town. That's why, like, when, Saudi Arabia fucking murdered a journalist, he was like, hey, no big deal. I need these guys. Yeah, hopefully they'll nail him to the fucking wall at some point.
I actually have, and I'm a big believer in not drinking expensive wine. I'm a believer in the fact that I currently really enjoy cheap wine, and therefore I don't want to drink expensive wine because then maybe I will see what I'm missing out on. But I have an absurdly expensive bottle of champagne sitting on a shelf that is specifically reserved for the day that Jared Kushner gets put in cuffs.
Nice.
Yeah. We will have... Adam and I have actually kind of gone back and forth about this on the Facing Spaces in the My Books. We will have an impromptu episode of the Woodscast where we all just get ripped roaring drunk when Jared Kushner is fucking perp walk.
And I hope they nail that fucking sack of shit on something.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got his wife. The favored daughter of the Trump family. Who just gets to willy-nilly walk around and do whatever the fuck she feels like. And then she's like, whoa.
You mean the daughter that Trump wants to have sex with the most?
A little bit. More than a little bit. Yeah. But no, like, she is she is a senior advisor to the White House. She wanted to have all of the security access, but none of the rules. They told her she couldn't do that. And then she finally got the security access. Jared Kushner finally got his security access. And then it comes out, and we find out later that she's been using her personal email for like a year and a half. And, who didn't see that coming? But, like, no, I would love for her to get thrown in cuffs right behind Jared Kushner because she, I know it's comparing apples to oranges, but can you imagine how much the Newt Gingriches of the world would have absolutely shit their pants if they'd have given Chelsea Clinton like an official job to do, just out of fucking nowhere? Like if they'd have plopped Chelsea Clinton, granted she was 13 years old or 12 years old at this time, plopped her in a seat and had her talk to some foreign dignitaries from China or Singapore. I forget what meeting it was at, but like Donald Trump just got the fuck out, and Ivanka Trump just sat down and acted like she was some kind of ambassador. It was like, who the fuck elected you to fuck anything? You've not been appointed to anything.
You don't have to imagine too hard because Newt Gingrich did shit himself when Bill appointed Hillary to a point position on the healthcare reform bill.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, but that was still like a quasi-governmental entity. Like it was kind of just like, hey, come up with ideas.
Yeah, so like not even an official position.
Yeah, and she was a grown woman with a law degree. Not some.
Well, that might have been the issue.
Yeah.
The woman part.
Well, they Newt Gingrich didn't have any problem when Donald Trump named his wife, was it the ambassador to the Vatican? Jesus.
I mean, that's the whole story of this entire administration is like, can you imagine the outrage if Barack Obama had a tape come out of him talking about grabbing women's genitals against their will? Yeah. It would have been a firestorm, but they're totally cool with it when it's their guy. I mean, that's the entire story of this administration.
It's almost ridiculous of an argument, but it's true.
Yeah.
But see, like,
that's why I try not to go down that road, because it's
right.
just like,
but it's so easy.
Yeah.
At a certain point, though, like, yeah, they would have, but part of that is that, like, a tape of Obama saying that would never come out. So they don't imagine that situation because Obama is not a person who would say that.
Yeah.
True.
So, but when a tape of Trump saying that comes out, like, there's a certain element of, like, not surprised.
It's like, oh, God damn it, this guy.
Yeah. Well, and like one of the things that always kills me about this, like, if Obama would have done it, it would have been, we would have set the world on fire. Is that these people, they don't care that they are in charge. Like, that's the thing. Is like there's this weird dichotomy in that they have won. They fucking won, but they realize that they don't actually want to govern. They can't govern. They're not good at it. The guy they elected to lead can't lead, won't lead, doesn't fucking know how to lead. So all they do is act like they're being persecuted. Like, it's so funny. Like, they basically control literally all three branches of government. If you conclude the conservative majority in the Supreme Court, like, it's just
next month.
Yeah, it's just there. It was Shay's right until January. It was theirs to do with what they pleased. And what do? They fucking bark on Twitter that nobody has locked up Hillary Clinton. I'm like, then lock her up. Like, I have so many conservative friends that will send me a message saying, she did this, and this. I'm like, then lock her the fuck up. Like, I literally don't care if you round Hillary Clinton up right now and put her in front of a federal judge.
Didn't the House pull Comey in and talk to him about her emails again this week?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Even Comey's
he's a liar.
Yeah, even Comey's just like, I don't know, man. I got to show up.
Well,
like,
we're going to be Guys, we're going to be rolling around in walkers and wheelchairs, and we're still going to be reading headlines about Congress's new investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
To celebrate the 50th anniversary of Hillary's emails, we've decided to reopen the case.
I've heard that Comey was like,
here's Mitch McConnell's head in a jar.
That he didn't want to say anything about Clinton.
What's that? John?
That is the latest thing the latest thing I've read on Facebook is he's afraid that the Clintons are going to shoot him in the back.
Oh,
and that's why
that sounds
he would rather commit treason.
Oh, you mean the latest from crazy people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. AKA people that I may or may not be related to by marriage.
Oh, I know these people. I argue with them on the Faces Spaces as well.
So
I know you do.
Can you imagine, like, all of the people who are still alive and saying crazy shit who would not be if the Clintons actually did have a hit squad?
Right. Like I you know, not to throw Jay under the bus because he's not here to defend himself, but like we were doing a podcast one day and I was like trying to tell him that Donald Trump is a fucking moron because of X, Y, and Z, and I was like, you know, and I started like bringing up Alex Jones. He's like, "Why are you bringing up Alex Jones?" I was like, "Well, Donald Trump went on his radio program." He's like, "No, he didn't." And so I sent him the screenshot I have of, you know, Alex Jones interviewing Donald Trump on the lead up in the run up to the 2016 election. He's like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "I told you, bro. Like, this shit happened. Like it's."
Where do you think half that stuff comes from?
Yeah, like it's so insane. And Adam, like to your point, yeah, like I tell people that, you know, people say, well, the Clintons have a body count. It's like, do you know that there was a senator who shot I think it was a watermelon to prove that the Clintons murdered a guy? And he's like, well, that just sounds ridiculous. Like, Google it. Fucking Google it. It's way more ridiculous than you think. And as long as we're talking about conspiracy theories, I would like to regale you guys with my two favorite ones I've heard this week. You're going to love these. The first one is that is that Barron Trump is Steve Bannon from the future come back to guy Donald Trump.
Okay.
It makes so much sense now.
Where did this come from?
It comes from it bubbles up from these QAnon people.
Oh my god, they don't even count. That's like
right. No, I got
honestly,
one more.
If you believe some of the stuff, you might as well believe that.
Now, and then this is my favorite. This is my favorite because it's A, not provable, and B, totally doesn't matter. The new one that's bubbling up from the QAnon people is that Barron Trump. I don't know why they're focused on Barron Trump, but Barron Trump was recently secretly named the youngest grandmaster of chess ever, but they couldn't say it. They couldn't like announce it because it would seem like the Trump administration kind of made it happen. So he just a week or so ago was named the youngest grandmaster of chess ever.
Yeah, because if there's anything that the Trump administration is known for, it's being concerned about optics.
Right. Well, and being subtle. Subtle is what they're good at.
I don't even have anything to say on that.
Yeah. No, it's just I just heard that and I was like, well, that's just absolutely fucking fantastic. Like I don't know what to tell anybody else either.
I'll just say, okay, fair enough.
I'm looking at that. I hadn't heard that, Justin, and I'm looking at that shit on Snopes right now. Holy shit!
Yeah, it's better. I mean, like you want to call me a nerd for watching like Supergirl? That's fine. But then these people will just spend hours posting that. Like, there is no difference in the fiction there. At least Supergirl has a story and a plot line. Yeah.
Wow. Somehow they're actually more invested. I don't know how, but they are.
All right. So we've kind of touched on and run through all the cavalcade of crap. The last thing I want to talk about and give Shay a couple minutes before we close this out is Shay, would you like to discuss why Lou Dobbs is bad and that we're upset that he's still alive?
It's like I said, I live in a world where my dog is dead, but Lou Dobbs is alive and a millionaire, and that fucking chaps my balls. That guy I just all you need to do really is go out and do some video searches, like YouTube searches, and look at shit that Lou Dobbs has said on what is it, Fox News Business?
Yeah. He's on Fox
yeah.
News Business, which is the Fox News for Fox News people who can't get on Fox News.
Yeah, and he's just the fucking worst. The thing that really set me off about it was hearing I was listening to a clip of him the other day where he was talking about how he doesn't understand why our public school system doesn't have time dedicated in class to telling people, telling the kids why Donald Trump is the greatest president we've ever had and all of the good things that he has done for them. I mean, this is a guy.
That's fascism.
Yeah, exactly. It's fucking fascism. That's why we don't do it. But this is a fucking guy who goes on air and he says this shit, and it pisses me off so much because either he's got an obvious disconnect between what that saying we should be doing that means, or he just doesn't care. But it makes me so angry because there's this whole section of people who watch that and go, yeah, that's a good point, we should do that. And he's just the fucking worst. Like I was looking, he's just never done anything worth paying attention to, not remotely recently.
I'm curious who actually watches Fox News Business or whatever it is, because I feel like people who have jobs don't actually watch it. But
I feel
like people who are really conservative just would watch Fox News. I'm confused.
It's for boomers, man. It's very clearly dedicated to a very specific, section of the population, and it's the older, maybe well off, not more well off, but most certainly white population in our country that that's targeted at. I mean, basically people just like Lou Dobbs. So I don't know. He's just such a bag of shit.
Not to get back on the Imagine If Obama train, but remember back.
Let's do it.
Remember back in 2009 when Fox lost their shit at the fact that some elementary school somewhere had their kindergartners sing a song about Obama being the first black president.
Mm-hmm,
oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
Well, one of the things that Lou Dobbs does, and this was my comment on Shay's Facebook page, is that it does suck that Lou Dobbs is still alive and Shay's best furry friend is not, but Roland had a soul.
Yeah.
And Lou Dobbs is going to live forever off the fear that he instills in Middle America about immigrants, and also his probably daily and or weekly blood transfusions from children, clearly white children. Can't be any colored children in that little mix.
Oh no, he would never have that.
Right, but this man is so jowly and so awkward. I was listening to a podcast just today, and they were talking about how fucked up Lou Dobbs is and how just horrible he is, like Shay was discussing. But then they looked at him and said, okay, he's clearly making some money. What's he doing with it? You don't play golf with a body that's as fucked up as Lou Dobbs is, because it's basically he's like one big jowl that they press into a suit and they just button it up in the back. And what's that, John?
Really channeling some love it or leave it.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing they said was all the money he makes goes to maintain Lou Dobbs in that current state. So just imagine what he would look like if he didn't have that money.
Well,
yeah, if he could play golf, it would be much more understandable.
Yeah.
For one, let's not wish death on people. I'd be satisfied with Lou Dobbs just not having an audience and having to retire. But on the other hand, imagine yourself in that position. You'd find something to do with the money. I'd find something to do with the money.
Yeah.
We all know we would.
Yeah.
No matter how jolly we were.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's I don't know. Lou Dobbs just seems to be. He seems to be that last foothold of just super white, super old, super waspy, just
he's a mirror of Donald Trump, really.
Yeah,
I mean, he might not be quite as wealthy and what have you, but really, he fits into the exact same mold of what Donald Trump is.
Yeah, he's gonna sit there on Fox News Business and say, listen, yes, your pay might be going down. Yes, that plant down the street might have closed because of automation. All this might sound bad, but guess what? It's okay because we owned the libs this last week over here. somewhere in Florida.
It's probably some brown person's fault.
Yeah, it's just he's just a relic. He's such a relic. Like literally, like he's dusty. But
Production quality, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah. Well, I think
it's authentic, okay?
Yeah. I think that's a good point to wrap up. I don't want to keep the guys on the East Coast up too late. I would like to appreciate all of them for doing this. I was thinking.
We are recording right now, right?
Oh yeah, totally recording. Fuck off, Jay, or fuck off, John. But I was thinking about this the other day, and basically most of our podcast is ass hat of the week. So I don't think we need to do ass hat of the week because we basically just bust on people for being asshats, ourselves included. Yep. But so I guess I want to ask the three of you guys: if there was something that made you smile this week in awesome, this week in awesome. John, you want to go for it? You seem like you got something.
Pass because I've already forgot what mine was.
Oh.
I'm gonna bring it back around. It is absolutely that Godzilla trailer.
Yeah, all right. So I get on board with that.
I really appreciate a good demeaning nickname. It's one of the things that it's one of the very, very few things that I do appreciate about Donald Trump is that he is absolutely liberal in his use of demeaning nicknames. But and also, well, he tries.
Even if he's not, I don't know about that. Even if he's not repeating them, other people help him.
So I'm getting in kind of I'm killing two birds with one stone here. I'm giving my moment that made me smile this week and also recommending a podcast. But if everyone remembers, because the news comes at us at 300 current events per day now, the current acting attorney general, Matthew Whitaker, and his checkered past with a company that I
believe it was called Prestige Worldwide. Was his company?
It was not, but
might as well.
It had some shady dealings involving hot tubs. Yeah. And on Pod Save America, they bestowed upon Mr. Whitaker the demeaning nickname of Hot Tub Crime Machine.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's good.
I thought you were going to talk about the fact that his patent company, they took the business of a man who was going to create a well-endowed toilet bowl for those of you that are constantly dipping your junk into the cold water. And it was like there was this very long, like 5 or 6.
The best of us.
Yeah, there's this very long, like 5 or 6 point plan about how that the toilet bowl, the shape of the toilet bowl and how the water filled up in it was a problem, and it needed to be higher because a good 12-inch difference between the edge of the toilet bowl and the water was good for most endowed men. I was like, oh, come on now, y'all make it
cold down there.
Yeah, every podcast I've heard talk about, they called it the hog toilet, and I love that. That's what it should be called. Yeah. All right. Well, I've got one that made me smile. I don't know if you guys caught this news article, but a DC there was a man from New Mexico that tried to get married in DC last week, about a week ago or so.
Yeah. I saw.
Yeah, there was a DC clerk that demanded an international driver's license because she did not know that New Mexico was a fucking state. So.
Yeah.
I believe this, and let me relay to you the story of why I believe this. So my first year of law school, I attended in Washington, D.C., and I once was going to a bar with some of my classmates, and I was denied admittance by the bouncer who believed that my ID was fake because West Virginia was not a state.
Oh. Well, see, and that's the thing. Like, I thought this was the best story ever because I was, at least 3 of the 4 of us were born and raised in West Virginia. You went to law school there. We know that all of us have fielded this question at least once, where we had to explain that no, there's no Western West Virginia. There's no Western Virginia. Is a separate state.
There is technically a Western Virginia, but it's not the same
Yeah.
Well, and you would think that a Washington D.C. bouncer who is who was at that very moment, and I would assume for most of his time, approximately a 1 hour drive from the West Virginia border, would understand that it was a state.
A good portion of the Eastern Panhandle is now like suburbs of Washington D.C.
Yeah, like I'm not superbly familiar with the the layout of Illinois, but I'm very fucking aware of Indiana and Wisconsin.
Well, for what it's worth, Marshall played in the New Mexico Bowl last year, and we may have had certain players on our team that tweeted like Mexican flags after they announced it there. So it happens.
It's still funny. Like I would have thrown an absolute fit if it was me. But,
well, you're not from New Mexico, so yeah.
Yeah, and even hammered drunk, I might not be able to find it on the map, but I know it's a state. I mean, for fuck's sake. Yeah.
I don't know. There are a couple states that I'm kind of iffy on. New Mexico is surprisingly not one of them.
Like whether or not it's a state or where it is.
Both.
Okay, well that's good. All right. Well, we need to wrap this up because Adam's about to fall asleep in his own chair because it's late. It's late in the Eastern time zone. Shay is either high or has frozen. No, he's moving. His eyes.
Oh, no, I'm here. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling through different articles on Snopes.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I appreciate all of you being on. It's always fun. Like we say, it's always fucking fun. Shay and I enjoy it. I get to talk to my little brother at least once a week when we do this podcast, and I get to talk to you guys. John, haven't seen you in a while. Adam, haven't seen you since homecoming, so it's always good to talk to you guys. So if you, we hope you guys like this podcast. We enjoy the shit out of it. I mean, I hate to say it, but we honestly do it more for us than anybody listening. But we hope you enjoy listening as well.
That's accurate.
I mostly do it so I can drink during the week.
What? Wait a minute. You're not why can't you drink during the week if you're not doing a podcast?
Do you know what's going on in my life?
Yeah. Well, I did not get your wife pregnant twice. That's your problem. So
yeah, I messed up.
Yep.
That he knows of.
Yeah. I don't know. If you enjoy the Witchcast, and we hope you do, because we, like I said, we enjoy doing it. Hit us up on SoundCloud. We're every place you can find your podcast. You can find us. Hit us up on Twitter. It's at Woodscast and then on Facebook it's Woodscast 1776 because fuck Alex Jones and all his shit. And then if you have a question, comment, or would like to talk about how ugly Shay is, I'm always welcome to discuss that. Hit us up at thewoodscast1776@gmail.com. Because what's that?
You're dead to me.
Well, I'm the older and handsomer brother, so I get to do that. All right, everybody. Thanks for being on the podcast, guys.
Bye.
All right, Shay, say goodbye to the nice people.
Toodles.
Never heard a sound. Oh, he's my man, and he likes to jam. The bang starts to jam, moving up and down across the land. Got a wiggle all in his waist. Everything about him seems out of place, but moving, just moving, just a rubber band man, just moving, just moving, just.